Hello everyone and welcome back to the main stage, and I'm delighted to announce we've got a couple of new faces today. So firstly, I thought I'd introduce Nisha. So Nisha's from RMP and she's going to be doing the Q&A today. So Nisha will be taking over the role that Emma had for the next couple of presentations to give Emma a well-earned break. So Nisha, feel free to say hello.
Hello, looking forward to the Q&A in a bit. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Nisha. And we've also got Isabel from Kpmg as well. So massive welcome, Isabel.
Thank you.
So Isabel is an Associate Director of Kpmg in Deal Advisory Team and has been there for 8 years. So Isabel, we're really looking forward to hearing more about your journey and what it is that you do at Kpmg.
Thanks so much.
I'm going to jump off now and Nisha will turn the video off, and then we're very much looking forward to the questions and we'll be running through those in around 25 or so minutes. So Isabel, Nisha, all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Hello, everybody. It's kind of strange to be talking to not much in an empty meeting room on my own, but hopefully you'll find the presentation interesting and looking forward to hearing some of your questions in a bit. So a bit of an introduction, as you've heard, I'm an Associate Director at Kpmg. I work in deal advisory. So I advise clients on buying and selling companies. I've been here for 8 years, and before I sort of launch into the journey so far, I thought I'd give a bit of information about me to make it a bit more personal. So I love the theatre. I kind of grew up performing on stage, and I still get a good dose of creativity, working with a lot of people from all over the world in my job. And sort of at the moment, I'm doing a singing diploma outside work. So I'm making sure that I'm doing sort of extracurricular stuff whilst my job is relatively demanding, still carving out time for my own personal passions. I'm really proud to be part of this women event because I'm passionate about furthering the agenda of women in M&A, and particularly in the private equity and financial services sector, which I know is what you are all here to hear about today. So where did my journey start? So I did history at university, and so I went to York, and I didn't really know what to do with myself after that, but I knew I wanted to get a professional qualification, because I thought that having some business skills and being able to look at a P&L or a balance sheet and understand it would open up a couple more routes for me going forwards. So I applied to a couple of the big four, and Kpmg sort of came to me as more of a friendly family kind of firm. It's a little bit smaller than some of the other big four, and luckily I got a place there. And I went straight into the grad scheme in transaction services. So that's within deals, effectively. I did my ACA, so I'm a chartered accountant, which was 3 years of pretty challenging exams, but super valuable. And I learned a lot about myself and also about, obviously, the content of strategy and tax and business, but actually getting some confidence and kind of tackle my imposter syndrome, which I certainly had, having come from a creative background and coming into Kpmg. Everyone around me was very, well, I thought was very numerical and like maths minded. But in fact, my experience, my ability to analyze things quickly, to build strong relationships with people have been as important, if not more important, than my ability to do accounting, which I also have to do as part of my job. So that's sort of my journey. And then now I work in the integration and separation team. So I advise my clients on really large, complex transactions, and they're normally quite global transactions. So I've worked in Chile, I've worked in America, in Switzerland for a while, and also in pockets of the UK. So I spent quite a lot of time in Glasgow and Edinburgh a couple of years ago, helping Clydesdale Bank and Virgin Money merge. So part of my job requires traveling, but as I said, working with different people from different walks of life, which is part of the job that I really enjoy. Thought it would be helpful to give you a few examples about some of the deals I've worked on, because it slightly brings them more to life and it's a bit more interesting. So if you think about from an integration perspective, when two companies are merging, I helped Nestle ice cream and R&R. R&R is a private equity funded ice cream company, which you won't have heard of because they are the sort of name behind the brands. But if you know, like Kelly's of Cornwall, for instance, that's one of their brands. So I helped the sort of integration, the merge of those two very different companies. One of them is private equity owned, so quite cutthroat, very dynamic and fast paced. And then you've got Nestle on the other side, which were very, hierarchical and traditional. And so that was a really interesting experience for me, having worked in Switzerland and then in sort of North Yorkshire, where I had an ice cream factory. So it's an example of what I do. After that, so that was probably about 6 years ago, I then sort of started moving into the financial services sector. So focusing a lot more on private equity and also working with, as I said, banks like Virgin Money. And the last 18 months, I've had the joy, the challenge and the joy of working with the London Stock Exchange on their integration with Refinitiv. And that's almost a $30 billion deal. It's a global deal. And I was doing the synergies work on it. So from the very start of the deal, before it was announced to the market, I was helping the London Stock Exchange to quantify what are the benefits of merging with Refinitiv. So what are the cost synergies and what are the revenue synergies? And then helping them to sort of write the announcement to go alongside the deal being announced and the synergy benefits, because that kind of drives the market value and the share price, and the market kind of expects of a deal for that size. You've got some sort of quantified benefit sitting behind it, rather than you just saying, it's a great deal, we're really happy, and cracking on. Unfortunately, that deal actually leaked before we managed to get it all together. So that's also a frustrating bit about working in M&A. I guess you have deals that can leak, and you can also have deals that you have worked really hard on that fall over for various reasons that are usually nothing to do with the work that you are doing. But it could be to do with COVID, for instance. We had a big transaction, which is highly confidential, that we were working on in sort of March 2020. And then obviously, because of COVID, they decided to pull out, or just to wait to see what happened, which ended up being the right thing to do, given the sector of those companies. So kind of that hopefully gives you a bit of flavour as to what I do day to day. And, I've been at Kpmg for a long time, for I guess my whole career. And I think the good thing about a place like Kpmg is that it's so big that you can almost sort of do anything, and there are so many diverse opportunities. So for me, I've got to travel a lot. I've been in 3 different teams within the firm, and through that experience have a really large network, both within Kpmg, but also people who've been working at Kpmg who now are at private equity houses or banks. And it's a real joy to see everybody kind of progressing through their careers together. And I think, the next steps for me, looking forward in the financial services market, there aren't a lot of women in the market. So ensuring that I'm sort of a role model for other women. It's not big and scary, I promise. I managed to sort of make my way through board meetings at the London Stock Exchange, despite not really understanding exactly how they make money. But because I'm very good at synergies and integration, and that's what I bring to the table. So I think, as I said before, I definitely recognize a degree of imposter syndrome in what I do. And so I'm always trying to educate people on that, to put on sort of learnings for people like Kpmg, but also my clients, make people more aware of it, and also just keep myself in check and my teams in check, and ensure that everyone can meet their goals and their aspirations, because certainly if I can do it, then you all definitely can do it. So I think that sort of summarizes why I'm here today. And to be honest, I think I'm more interested in answering your questions than doing a big spiel about me. So I know I'm a little bit early on the presentation, but more than happy to move across to Q&A. Nisha, if you want to.
Hello. Oh, well, thank you so much for that. It's really interesting hearing about all your insights working at Kpmg. So I've been monitoring all the questions. We've had a few come in. And please, if you've got any other questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll try and answer them. So, I just want to start off. So you talked about kind of the hobbies outside, so you like theatre and you like sing, so you're doing a singing diploma at the moment too. I mean, it's amazing. I wish I could sing too. But how do you kind of balance, like work-life balance? So is it, I mean, do you find it easy, and have you got any advice?
Yeah, I think that's a really pertinent question, particularly if you're working in a deal environment. I think we were talking earlier before we came onto the live call about the fact that I've always got my phone on me. So I think, deals happen quickly. The clients expect you to be there to help them. You're their trusted advisor. So, you need to be contactable. Clearly, projects come and go. So what I try to say to my teams and to myself is that, it fluctuates. So ride the wave. So you'll be very, very busy for a period of time, but that's always going to end. So you'll always end the project. And that's certainly something I like about doing project-based work, not having sort of the same thing to do every day. For me, sort of every day is completely different, throwing different challenges at me. I don't know where I'll be. I could be, traveling that day, or I could be working at home. And then, throughout the day, deals also move and change. So there's always new things to deal with, new problems to solve, and that sort of keeps me on my toes. I'm not a very good person. If I'm bored, I tend to be quite annoying to people around me. So I think that's been key to me, ensuring that I'm challenged and ensuring that I'm sort of kept on my toes.
Oh, definitely. And I love that. No day's the same. And different challenges always arise. So that's brilliant. We've got a few questions on the application process. And you mentioned you did a grad scheme with Kpmg. So could you tell us about your experience with the application process? And
it's quite a long time ago. So it might have changed slightly. So just caveating, but also happy to put people in touch with people who actually do this every day, so they can give everyone more up-to-date guidance. But I think I did a psychometric test, sort of the numerical and verbal tests, and then we did an assessment centre in person. So that was about there was a bit of a case study, a few group interaction sessions, and then we had a partner interview at the end, which we had to present a case study. I think mine was on Ryanair. At the time, Ryanair was, I guess, a new business model, sadly. And it was saying, how they're entering the market and how they can how can they afford to provide these low cost tickets when the overheads to fly are not kind of that fixed. So how can they kind of come into the market and undercut like the likes of BA, etc. When you see now, today, BA is trying to come into that market too. Yeah. So it all goes in a circle. But the process, I think, itself is very similar to the other big four. I would say the only difference with Kpmg, we've really focused on why you want to join our firm, because the culture and, as I said, the people is something that makes Kpmg really special. It's not hierarchical. It's, everyone's collaborating, wanting to help each other. I've never met anybody actually at Kpmg, which I hadn't thought, like, I can get along with you. We've got similar values, so they're really important to us.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. We've also got a question from Amy. She says, has there been a time where you have felt daunted about applying for a role or opportunity due to being a woman? And were you able to overcome this? And if yes, have you got any advice to support?
Yeah, I think actually maybe one thing I probably should have mentioned in the presentation is that when I've moved between a couple of teams in Kpmg, and I started off in private equity, so I ended up, it's very male dominated, even in our firm, and particularly at the time, which was a few years ago. And I kind of sought opportunities where I could see very senior women and try to sort of follow them, because I sort of thought, if there's someone that I can see that's an inspiration to me, it would give me more confidence in my ability to get there, or my ability to see there's a path, that I can go down. And that's actually how I ended up in my team. I had no basis for the decision other than the fact the team I was going to is more diverse. So there's like a female partner. So I would say positioning yourself, hopefully somewhere where you have a role model, has always helped me to make me feel more sure of myself, and also asking for help from other women in the business. I'm always trying to help people the whole time. I mentor a whole bunch of people outside of my day-to-day role. So firstly, find a mentor or someone that you can get some advice off. And then secondly, the imposter syndrome point is really important. Like, understand more about the imposter syndrome so you're aware of it for yourself. Just recently, I was saying to the guys, I've just got promoted to director, and I actually failed at the panel in March. So I kind of had a big setback personally, and I thought it was perhaps due to the fact I'm a woman, I'm a young woman, I might come across as quite young, but actually I'm very experienced, and I really got in my own head about it. And then I went for promotion again, and that was just last month. And that time I sort of had managed to kind of reconcile with myself. No, the facts are on the page. Like, I know I can do this, and I am confident in myself, and I therefore can convince someone else for sure that they should promote me. So I think that mindset change, I think if everyone can kind of apply that, check in with yourself and try and self-validate, because if you do put the facts on a piece of paper, it's much easier than what your mind does, which is try to sort of second guess yourself.
Yeah, no, just echo everything you said there. I think, resilience is key. And yeah, I mean, there was a question that, is there any further advice that you'd give to someone to overcome imposter syndrome? And I think you've answered it there, but is there anything else you would add to that?
I don't think I've overcome the imposter syndrome. I think understanding it. Yeah. Understanding that it's in everybody, like even men and women. Also, a lot of men would come to our events and they would be like, well, I have the imposter syndrome too. So it's not just obviously a female thing. So I think just understanding it, and the more experience you have, and the more as you go up your career and through your career, hopefully you'll get sort of external feedback and validation that what you're doing is fantastic and it's the right thing to do. So listen to people when they give you feedback, and try not to just shut it off, all the positives, and just focus on, oh, they said these 7 things that were fantastic, but there was this one thing that wasn't, and I'm just gonna then go on this one thing and get very upset about it. So yeah, ask for feedback, and yeah, try and understand it as much as you can, and understand how you're kind of keeping yourself in check, because it's certainly a bit of a bumpy road for me, as I said, given the last couple of months.
That's for many. Yes, no, really good advice there. We've got another question that's saying, is there many female role models in Kpmg? Is there anyone you look up to and take advice from them?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to have a bunch of female role models that have been really senior and have just just shown me that there's no boundaries, that, you know, they can be as good as and better than some of their male counterparts. Should say that out loud. But for instance, my team, the head of my team, which is a team of 180 people, we've got revenue of £55 million, is a woman. So she's, her name's Hannah, and she has children, and she manages her day-to-day childcare and the job at the same time. So she's super inspirational to me. And there's a couple of those role models where I can see them, I can observe them in the client meetings and see that they're absolutely fantastic. But then I can also have a sidebar conversation with them when they have their own like wobbles and worries, and realize that everyone's the same, and there's no kind of, you don't get to the point where you're ultimately 100% resilient to everything and 100% confident. Even the head of my team has those days where they're not sure what they're doing is the right thing to do, and so never feel like you're doing it wrong or you're not sure what you're doing with your job, because I think 9 times out of 10 no one really knows what they're doing. It's just muddling through.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, no, it seems like a very supportive culture, and everyone's trying to, you know, make you the best. And there's a question from Bethany saying, what are men like when in competition with them for higher positions?
What are men like when I compete with them for
higher positions? Yes.
I guess I've come across different types of people. It's not just men, it's women as well. So I think just for me, it's about doing the best job, and me feeling comfortable that I'm doing a good job is always my own sort of check to myself that no, I know that I'm better or I'm more experienced than them. And sometimes the dynamic is challenging, especially when I was coming up the ranks, because I was always like the youngest person in the room, or and a woman. So, you know, there are some ways to deal with that kind of dynamic, which is a bit of pandering to the ego, which is awful, but actually it just helps make life a lot easier. And the way I get over it is Theresa May, I think, who I'm not necessarily saying she's a good person, but she has this sort of funny article about the fact that she'll pander to the ego, but behind the scenes, she knows exactly what she's doing and why she's doing it. So a lot of people don't clock on to the fact that you're just being sarcastic. Like, oh, you're so good at your job. It's so difficult. I know, you know, it's so hard. But you're doing a really good job. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, terrible at your job. I'm doing it all for you. But, you know, you just got to you've got to get through it. You know, it's a short period of time. And sometimes, you know, you're not going to be friends with everyone. And actually, one thing my boss said to me was, Isabel, you're not here to make friends. Like, just remember that. Like, you know, to do a job, and you can do it with a smile and with good grace. But at the end of the day, the M&A world and financial services, you've got to be pretty resilient. But you can't, if you're trying to please everybody around you, you won't get anywhere. So.
Definitely. Great advice there. We've got another question that says, would there be anything that is particularly looked for in terms for prior experience when applying for internships or graduate schemes?
Honestly, no, because we're trying to be as sort of open to diverse people as possible, because we need people from all sorts of backgrounds. As I said, I did history. I thought that it was ridiculous that I was even applying. But in fact, we have a lot of people who have not even been to university. Like, you know, we've literally got people from all over the place who are fantastic. So no, we're not looking for anything. We just want people who are passionate, who are proactive, who can bring something to the table, something different to us, to KPMG. Because we've got to learn and we've got to develop and we've got to change. We need to change all the time. So we need people to tell us and speak up and help us get there. So nothing specific, I would say.
Yeah.
Go for it, basically. Just apply. Back yourself.
Definitely.
And you're looking for research with the company. I've had a few interviews and someone's like, not sure which company I'm applying to. It's like, just do a little bit of research.
Yeah, brilliant. No, and you just mentioned that you're looking for diverse talent. So, students from all walks of life, all different backgrounds and experiences, male, female, so everyone. So, yes. Yeah. Oh. Do you do anything in Kpmg to like champion that? Is there any groups or things that people can join?
Yes, there's plenty going on. So we're obviously like one of the top employers for social mobility. So we do a lot there, particularly in Tower Hamlets. So I'm in Canary Wharf in our office, and we sit in Tower Hamlets in London. So in our office, we do a lot of work with the schools in Tower Hamlets. So through, I guess, it's a school called Little Ilford. That's one that I sponsor and support, and they'll come in for workshop days. We have like weekly mentoring with them on CVs for university. I mean, there's so many things you can get involved in, and it's all kind of just to be found. So I think on Friday this Friday, we're meant to be walking in Epping Forest, 20k, the whole of the London office for the NSPCC. So there's always things going on that you can get involved in. Almost there's too much going on, but outside the day job. So yeah, and that's what I sort of do. That Women in Private Equity initiative is my initiative that I run. So when I said about the imposter syndrome events, we also do a lot of external networking with clients. So people can learn skills and they can meet clients when they're like junior, as opposed to waiting until you're like, I'm a partner, I can talk to clients now on my own. We find it much better if everyone's talking to each other at all the various grades, because it just builds a network, it builds your experience, and it's nice to meet people that are outside Kpmg. So.
Yeah, so is it Epping Forest, did you say that you're going?
Yeah, I'm going to Epping Forest. Yeah.
Well, if you're around, go and cheer everyone and it's for the NSPCC. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, brilliant. And then just touching on that, I mean, you talked a little bit about like the culture of Kpmg. What do you think makes it stand out from like the Big Four, for instance? Yeah, the Big Three.
Well, I guess to be like pragmatic about it, all the Big Four we all do similar things, right? So as I said, when I applied, I liked Kpmg because the people I met seemed friendly, I got on with them, and we had similar values. And that was kind of the basis of why I pursued that route. I've worked a lot with the other Big Four. We've always sat on the other side of the table, because if you think about a deal, you've got like a seller and a buyer, and there's always an advisor to each. So I spent lots of time with PwC and EY particularly. And I wouldn't say they were totally, different, but I feel that my team is probably more supported maybe than they are. And we really, really value our people. And, we really strive for no hierarchy, everyone working together and feeling like they're part of one team. So for instance, I'll stay late. If my, the most junior person on my team is staying late to do something, we'll stay late together and we'll do it and finish it quicker. And there's no sense of hierarchy in that sense, which is great, because you feel like you're supported.
Yeah, oh, excellent. Yeah, a massive team effort there, it sounds like. And with that, you mentioned that you had 3 separate roles in Kpmg, and someone's asked, what's been your favourite role? And yeah, and why?
That's a very hard question. I would say, well, I guess I was a different level in each of the roles. I would say the team that I'm in now, I've been in for 5 years. So it's my longest time in a team. And I think I know it's my favorite because that's why I'm still here, but I think we are market leading. So we are the best in the market for what we do, and the best of the Big Four. And that means that I get the most exciting deals, the biggest deals, the most complex deals. And then the people that are working with me are the best too. So, it's that kind of, we're growing really fast. There's loads of opportunities, and there's never no day is the same. It's always, constantly being challenged. And so I would say this role that I'm doing now. So yeah, maybe I'll do another role and it might change, but I'm happy with where I am.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. So Kpmg's asked, are there any other certifications apart from the ACCA that is valuable for a staff member at KPMG?
So we sponsor the SEMA as well. So it's a Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, I think is the right acronym. And we also have people who do the CFA and obviously the ACA. But you also it's not a prerequisite depending on what team you're joining in. So if you're doing my team that I'm in today, there's no prerequisite for any qualifications. However, if you're doing transaction services, you have to be an accountant, so you have to do the ACA. But I would always tell everybody, do a qualification. It's the best thing you can do. It was for life, like you'll have it for life, and you'll always know you're employable, and you'll learn, as I said, a lot about yourself as well as about the content. You know, how to work at pace, how to juggle things like work and study. You really rounds you as an individual going into professional life. So yeah, we offer those three in the main, but no prerequisite depending on what team you're in.
Brilliant. And it doesn't matter what you study at university, because you can do, you know.
It doesn't matter at all. No. So I hate maths. Just to let everyone know, I hate it. My friends are confused.
Yeah.
I'm doing a financial services M&A job, but you actually don't need to do much maths, just basic maths, which you can do on a calculator or using Excel.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Someone asked that, so yeah.
No. I really hate it. I just did GCSE maths and then I stopped. Yeah, and I was in history, so I just read a lot of books for 3 years. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And someone else has asked, is there much traveling involved in your job? And I mean, I guess it's probably pre-COVID. I don't know if it's starting to pick up now, but do you get to travel much?
Yes. Well, particularly in my team. So we do global deals. So there's always people involved all over the world. And we also work with our Kpmg offices across the world. So right now I'm working with our Italian and our French colleagues in my team on a sort of project with Aviva. And as I said, I've been able to work in Chile. So I lived there for 6 months and I was doing a car integration. And it was really bizarre, but I was like living in the W hotel and like the company was a car company. So they just gave me a company car to drive around in and didn't let me get any insurance. It was like quite bizarre. I was like, which car would you like for the showroom? I was like, I'm not sure this is a good thing to do. So lots of travel, and normally it's like Monday to Thursday. So you always come back on a Thursday night and you can have your weekend, your Friday in the office, seeing people, and then the weekend, and then back out again. But for me, especially going up the ranks, I've learned a lot, again, personally about myself, being able to operate in like Spanish when I don't speak any Spanish, but kind of be able to get by, working with my colleagues from like Mexico, from Chicago office, and you really build some strong relationships when you're working abroad, both with clients and colleagues. So certainly travel's back on the cards for us, because the type of work we do, our clients are kind of going through some of the most challenging times in their careers. Like these big deals are transformational, and they need us really sitting alongside them, hand in glove, as I said, as a trusted advisor. So we'll definitely be going back out there.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, the opportunity to travel is very exciting, especially now. How you can. So
I guess the other thing, in it, and I haven't done it personally because I've done so much travel with work anyway, but you can go on secondment to any KPMG office whenever you want. So, you know, you go to Amsterdam, you go to New York, Singapore, Hong Kong. I've got friends in Chicago at the moment from my team. We've got them in Hong Kong, Singapore at the moment. So you can go off for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it just opens loads of doors, and it's definitely a personal as well as professional experience, and I think it's highly valued by the people who do it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I've just got one time for one last question before we end. But I just want to ask, what is your favourite thing about working at Kpmg? If you could name one thing, what would it be?
What is the best thing? People. Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of, we say in our team, you're working pretty hard and you spend, as I said, quite a lot of time with your colleagues if you are traveling with them, and the people really make it for us. And as I said, everyone's great, they're fantastic, they've got the same values, and we all work as one team. So the people is definitely what makes it for me.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you for all your insights into Kpmg. I think we found that really useful. And if you do have any more questions, please go onto the Kpmg booth and I'll be able to answer them there. But thank you as well, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I can't see any of you, but thanks so much for your time, and hopefully see some of you at Kpmg soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.